Terry, I've got 4:30 if you're ready to start.
Okay. Oh, I have 4:29.
Hold on. We can wait.
I'm going to give everybody till 4:30.
Okay.
Okay, now I have 4:30. Hopefully the rest of the folks will sign on sooner rather than later. Just to give a general, overview for those of you who are new or may not know in general. So the commission last met, our regular last meeting was our February meeting. We did have an unscheduled, unregularly scheduled meeting earlier in March, right before everything got shut down. So our last regularly scheduled monthly meeting was in February. So it's been a while since we have all been together, and it's definitely been a while since we've really been able to move forward with any work. So today is June 30th. It's the last day of the fiscal year on the city calendar. And therefore it's the last day for the terms of some of us, myself included. So one of the main reasons that I asked City Council for permission to hold a meeting before the end of the fiscal year was just really because of this transition. There are quite a few commission members who are cycling off as of today. And we have quite a few new members. We also still have a few open seats. And in addition to that, we had a also very large turnover this time last year. So what that means is as of tomorrow, we're going to have a very new commission, and almost no one will have been on commission for more than a year. So it's going to be just a big transition. So I just thought it would be good for us to come together and meet each other and talk about some of the transitions. So just to let you know, as with all board and commission meetings with the city, these meetings are public. That means there may be some folks from the general public or media who are listening in. I don't anticipate taking public comment at this meeting, primarily because of time. I think we're just focusing on transitioning. I don't know when the next time this group will be able to meet again, so I'm not sure that there's going to be a lot of business happening until the city decides, when things are going to be functioning again at a normal level. That said, the members of the public and the media are able and welcome to listen in, and we'll see how the time goes. Also, for anybody who is new and anybody in general, again, because all of our meetings are public, all of our communications are also subject to being FOIA-able, as we say. That's FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. So it's just always important to be aware of that process, and that goes for things we talk about, emails that are exchanged between commissioners and city staff, between commissioners and other commissioners, etc. So just to know that. I just quickly will say that this is my last meeting. My role for the last several years, in addition to being the representative for our Italian sister city for all the time that I've been on commission, I've been chair for the last, I don't know how many years. And so I'll be saying goodbye at the end of this meeting. In addition to that, Patrick Corey, who is helping us run this meeting today, Patrick will be cycling off as well after this meeting. We'll get to this later, but it is possible that he may, as a city employee, he may have some continued interactions and some ability to be helpful in some ways as we move forward. Tammy Kevaney is also cycling off as of today. Tammy is our business community representative, and that's a role that remains open. So we'll be looking to fill that soon, I hope. Andrew Pollard couldn't be with us today. Andrew is our student representative, and that's another position that remains open. So hopefully that will also get filled. Justin Reed, who hopefully will be joining us soon, is planning to resign. We're working on finding somebody to take his place as the Winneba representative. So that's still in the works, and my understanding is that he will hang tight for a bit in the hopes that that replacement can be found. And then we have two other commissioners who have resigned since we last met. Emily Martin, who was our Besançon rep, and that position has been replaced. We'll get to that in a moment. And James Potter, and he has also been replaced. So any questions from anybody on those things? Unmute. You have to unmute. Yeah.
I have one question. It's in regards to the youth individual. Do they have to be a high school student, or do college students, like undergraduates, also qualify?
That's a great question. I don't know that there is anything actually sort of written in our bylaws that address that specifically. So the short answer, if anybody feels differently, let me know, but I think the short answer is it's meant to be a student. So it doesn't, I don't think it defines whether that's, you know, a minor student or a college student. So I think it can be either.
If we find that we have people who are interested in that role, who should we get them in contact with?
So there is on the city website, there is a boards and commission application, and it's now, you used to have to fill it out and print it and mail it or email it as an attachment, but now it's actually, you can fill it in online and submit it that way. You can also refer them to the clerk's office, and Max or Kina would be happy to help them with any questions.
Yeah, you can certainly refer them to us. That seat hasn't actually been posted yet because council appoints on a quarterly basis. So I'll actually post the vacancies within the next week or so, okay? So you can look out for it then.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, yep.
So let's move on. I would like to just ask our new members to introduce themselves. Just whatever you would like to share about who you are and why you applied to be on the commission. Just a brief hello, and I'll just call out as I see you on my screen. Stella, can we start with you?
Sure. So my name is Stella, and I come from Poggio a Caiano, actually. So that's the main reason why I decided to apply for this position, because I've been living in Charlottesville since 2013. But I still go, I still have the house there, and I still go there whenever I can. So I have a lot of contacts. I know a lot of people because also when I was living there, I was a journalist for the local newspaper. So during the years, I met different people, and I don't know. I thought it was a good idea to be part of this committee because I mean I can help with um, doing different stuff and organizing different events, and I can tell you that the people in Poggio really care about the relationship with Charlottesville, and so I don't know. I'm sure that I can be helpful, and right now as a job I work at University of Virginia as an Italian teacher. So I guess that's it for now.
Thanks, Stella. So Stella will be taking my role as the representative to Poggio a Caiano, and the great thing about that is that as a native Italian speaker, she already has one leg up on me. So let's go to Elizabeth.
Hi, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Smiley, and happy to be stepping into the Besançon rep role. I'm a long-term Charlottesville resident. I've been here since 1988. And so over the years, I've been involved at the university and in some other community jobs. And for the last 2 decades, I've had a private practice as a psychotherapist. So that's my day job. I was lucky enough to travel to Besançon 2 years ago with the Sister City delegation. I'm a lifelong Francophile, and I have spent some time in France over the years, but I had never been to the eastern part of France. So it was a wonderful trip. And just like Stella said, it became very clear to me how important this sister city relationship is to the city of Besançon. So important that they have lots of sister cities all over the world. They take this very seriously, and they're very devoted to that kind of cultural exchange. They've done a terrific job, I think, of keeping that relationship going. So I'd like to pitch in and be part of the legacy of that.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So Elizabeth will be taking over for Emily, and she will, because Emily only served in the role for about half of her term, Elizabeth will also probably spend some time talking to Yates Nobles, who had been the rep prior for many years. And Elizabeth, just to let you know, Kate, who is here on the call as well, Kate actually has family in Besançon, so you two might want to have a chat about that at some point.
Sure.
Michael, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Mike Brunel. I moved to Charlottesville about 4 years ago to work at UVA in the IT department. I did international studies in college, took 6 years of French, but a lot of it has lapsed, I'm sorry to say. I wanted to get more active in community life in Charlottesville, having been here for a couple of years. And I was lucky enough in high school to do a study abroad in France through the Rotary Club, and thought that was a great opportunity, and this seemed like an interesting group to join.
Great, thank you. And Michael's been appointed to, correct me if I'm wrong, Max, I think to fill the remainder of James Potter's at-large. Yes, okay, great. Adrian.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adrian Ward, and I would be working with Stella, representing or helping our relationship with Poggio a Caiano. I have been pretty active with community relations in Poggio in indirect ways. I was part of the committee that planned activities for the big 40th anniversary celebration a couple of years ago, and I've been leading an informal community group on researching Filippo Mazzei, Jefferson's good Italian buddy, And we've had a group that's really been interested in that. And as most of you probably know, Matse was from Pojo, hence the relationship between the two cities. I have just recently retired from a position teaching Italian at UVA in the Department of Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. And so my Italian is pretty good. And Stella and I know each other, so we have a nice working relationship. And I too know the representatives of Pojo Acayano through bringing students over for study abroad and through various other initiatives. And I can second what she said, that they're very enthusiastic about the sister city relationship. And I think it'll be fun to explore some new and exciting ideas in the future.
Excellent, thanks. Let's just quickly, I'm gonna skip over those of us who are gonna be off commission after this meeting, but maybe do a quick, brief intro for each of you who are remaining, so that our new members can have a sense of who you are, since they'll be working with you moving forward. Do you mind starting, Damon?
Hi, everybody. I'm Damon Irby. I'm the Director of Global Initiatives at the UVA Center for Politics. So I'm the higher education representative on the commission, and I joined, I believe, back in February. So glad to be here. Looking forward to working with everybody.
Excellent. Thank you. Joan.
Joan Clark, and I've just completed 1 year, and what a year it has been. So I've been working on the subcommittee of selecting a Spanish-speaking sister city. So I can go over that later, but I spent 13 years in South America growing up, and so I'm really excited, hopefully in the future, not too distant future, of getting a Spanish-speaking sister city. And welcome, everyone. And hope everyone's doing well.
Amanda?
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Folsom, and welcome to our new members. I'm about 1 year into my term with the Sister Cities. I'm an at-large member, and I'm leading the grants committee. And in my day job, I work in international development on health policy and financing issues, particularly affecting low and middle income countries. And I do a lot of adult learning, facilitation of peer learning across countries, which was one of the reasons I was really interested in the Sister Cities program.
Thank you. Dave?
Hi, Dave Norris. I am an at-large member of the commission, and have been very much involved with the Charlottesville-Winneba Sister City Partnership, and have helped to organize 6 different delegations now that have gone from Charlottesville to Winneba. I'm also on the subcommittee that Joan chairs for selecting a Spanish-speaking sister city. I'm very excited about that. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Dave. Kate?
Hi, I'm Kate. I've been on the commission for about a year now. I believe I'm an at-large, but I'm the education chair. So I am a teacher within Albemarle County Schools, middle school teacher, and I am also on this committee for the Seeking the Spanish Speaking City with Joan and Dave as well. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Neely?
Hi, I'm Neely Minton. I am coordinator of social studies and world languages for Charlottesville City Schools, also coordinator of schools. So we are getting that underway now. Nice to meet all the new members. I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Neely is our Charlottesville City Schools representative.
Thank you.
Max, would you introduce yourself and explain the interaction with the clerk's office, how that works?
Sure. So my name is Maxilia Robinson. For all the members, feel free to call me Max. I am the Deputy Clerk of Council And I'll kind of manage all the internals as far as boards and commissions. So you need to verify a member's term. You need to let me know there's a vacancy, what have you, then just shoot me an email and I'll take care of that. I'm actually sitting in for the clerk of council who's at another meeting, Keena Thomas. Wonderful lady. I'm glad to serve on the Sister Cities Commission, and I'm sure you'll be able to meet her on the next meeting.
Thank you. So thanks to everybody. Let's jump in a little just so we can get through, see if we can get through the agenda. So we did our introductions and welcomes and farewells. We talked briefly during that about the positions that are still open and will soon be posted. Just as a reminder, that's the student rep and the business community rep. So if anybody, any of you, current members, new members, retiring members, know anybody that might fit into either of these positions and might be interested, let them know. Max, I'm assuming that when they're posted, will this group get a notice that they could then forward on to people interested?
I don't necessarily contact individual boards. There'll be a news flash that goes out, and if you're signed up for that, you'll be made aware that way. So,
and that is important and pretty helpful, actually, if you're not already signed up for getting news flashes from the city. I recommend that you do that. They don't send out too many, but it's good to know what's going on, and you will find out about openings on boards and commissions, among other.
Right.
So in terms of a budget update, I wanted to do a quick budget update because that does sort of inform many things, at least. We have a current balance of $46,275.10, which is not a bad pot. We have recently paid out some grant funds, and we'll get to more about grants in a little bit. And we do have some grant funds that are allocated, but not paid out yet. So those would be included in that amount of money. City Council just recently passed the budget for this fiscal year that starts tomorrow. And this commission did not receive its usual $15,000 allocation. So there's no additional monies coming in for this fiscal year. So that means that 46,000 minus whatever we've already allocated is what there is to work with for this coming year. Dave, just a question about the 7,500 that was previously earmarked, and I believe actually went to the Charlottesville Winnabow Foundation for the trip that you all were obviously and unfortunately unable to take in May. Is there a plan? Is that money coming back to the city?
Yeah, that trip was not canceled. It was just postponed. So it'll happen in December.
December.
So everybody's still excited to go. And so we're still moving forward. So.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the budget? Obviously, there's a lot of bits and pieces. There is an actual budget that gets set up by this group each year in terms of, allocating this amount of money for this line item, and that's something you all will need to do down the road. So this was just kind of the big picture, but does anybody have any questions, burning budget questions? Okay.
Terry, just
yes.
just a quick question on that. Do you have a
Amanda.
sense of the 46,000, what is already allocated? I know there's some grants funds, which we'll talk about in a moment, but
Right.
once the 7,500 for Winneba trip and the grants funding is spent, does that leave us much funding for grant
The
making for next year?
7,500 is already gone, right, Dave?
Oh, that's not
Have
counted.
that in hand? Yeah. So
Okay.
it's whatever grant funds are still outstanding.
Okay. So that still leaves us a decent amount to work with for grant making next year, potentially. Okay.
Do you want to take it away?
Sure. Thank you. Great. So just to provide a quick update on grants, as Terry noted, we have, as of our December decision meeting around grant making, approved 3 grant applications for 2020, which accounts for $10,500 for grant projects. One is a musical exchange with Poggio. One is a fire safety partnership between the Charlottesville Fire Department and the Winneba Ghana Fire Department. And the third is a poetry exchange with Winneba. So those 3 are grants that have been approved. We also conditionally approved a partnership or a study trip for Charlottesville High School and Pleven, Bulgaria, but I think that was still undergoing some due diligence and approval with the schools at the time that COVID hit. And then we approved $2,000 in sponsorship and discretionary funding for the Virginia Folklife Festival, which was also postponed. So all travel and events were put on hold. And so I think just one thing I'd like to confirm with the commission is that we can reserve the grant funding commitments already made for 2020 until it's safe for the grantees to move forward with their plans and projects, most of them which have been, it seems, have been postponed, and possibly will carry over into 2021 depending on how the pandemic evolves. So I just wanted to understand if there are any restrictions on that carry over for grant funding that we need to plan for. So that's one question from a grants perspective. Shall I pause here? I wanted to just update on travel scholarships too, but I can pause on that question first and then come to the scholarships question.
Yeah, I think unless this group has any objections, I don't see any reason why people can't be given an extension to carry out their grants, since obviously there's no way they can do it in the original time frame, and that's of no fault of anybody's own. So, speak up if you have another opinion or think that we need to go in a different direction with that.
Great. I think it was maybe just and perhaps Max from the clerk's office perspective too, just making sure that that funding doesn't sunset or anything that would prevent us from paying out next year if the projects don't move forward until 2021. So that's, I think, just maybe the one question that I had, but we can follow up on that if there are any concerns there.
Yeah, that's something that I can certainly check on. And then Kina did forward me a budget report. I could send it to the group. I'd be glad to read it aloud. It's totally up to you.
Yeah, maybe if you want to read it aloud and then maybe send it via email so people have it
Okay.
back to, that'd be great. Thank you, Max.
All right, sure. So fiscal year 20 appropriation, July 1st, 2019, 15,000. Carryover balance for fiscal year 19, $54,012.48. And these are the list of expenditures. July 15, 19, $120 meeting meal. August 19, 2019, $40.98 meeting refreshments. September 17, 19, $200 rental meeting space for retreat. September 17th, $26.40 retreat beverages. September 17th, $150 retreat meal. October 28th, 19, $7,500 Charlottesville Winneba Foundation for travel scholarships. December 19th, 2019, $3,700 grant reimbursement to Stacy Evans, 2019 recipient. February 13th, 2020, $2,000. Charlottesville Winneba Foundation for Myra Anderson, 2020 grant recipient. March 9th, 2020, $7,500. Charlottesville Winneba Foundation for Travel Scholarships. And June 22nd, 2020, $1,500. Grant reimbursement to Lewis and Clark Exploratory Center, 2018 recipient. Searles, maybe? Giving a total balance of $46,275.10. That carries over to fiscal year 2021. And then she has a note at the bottom saying 2020 grant awards, $20,000 outstanding, and that she needs a report for previous year's outstanding grant awards still payable.
Great. Perhaps, Amanda, you could just follow up with an email to Kina and Max with just the outline of what funds are still, have been earmarked for grants but have yet to be paid out. And if you need help with that, I'm happy to help you with that.
Sure, thanks, Terry. I can certainly do 2020 and might just need your help getting a little bit of the historic information, but I can follow up on that. Great, thank you.
All right, anything else from you, Amanda?
Yeah, I was just going to also update that the grants committee met in April via Zoom to start developing a process for issuing travel scholarships for participants travel for sister cities trips and other exchanges. And this was discussed during, I think it was March, when we had a discussion around travel scholarships for Winneba. The grants committee has developed some principles and started drafting a process, and I can send that out prior to our next meeting for feedback. And then I think the next step there is to really develop that into a more formal application process and application form for commission's approval. So just wanted to let everyone know that that's in process and something we'll be following up on.
Excellent, thank you. Obviously more to come. The good news is Amanda has agreed to continue to chair the grants committee. So once you all have a chance to get settled, and once the future meeting schedule is determined and all that, I think you will probably revisit committee assignments and add new people to various committees. So this will all start to make a little more sense as that goes along. Kate, anything you want to update us on with the Education Committee?
First off, sorry you guys were getting my chats. We were talking K-12 stuff, Neely and I. But so anyway, read the if you wanted to. It's not that exciting. So back when this all started, I guess it was March or April. I spoke with you about this, Terry, and a few others. We thought about doing an essay contest with this, and then everything happened and we didn't go forward with it, but we can still do it. It's certainly still an option. It was an essay contest. I think the guiding question was about how has an experience like with another culture or something different than you changed you or made you something to that effect. I can send it out to everyone, but if I haven't, but we can still continue with that. Not necessarily education in itself, but it's open up to anyone in the community. As far as specific goals that we've had, it's kind of, in flux right now with everything. But I think, making a plan to sort of talk about, as teachers, as folks in education I know that in Albemarle County, we're planning on doing sort of a in-person / virtual sort of thing for the foreseeable future, thinking about how we can sort of make that work for what we want to do with our commission, and seeing like how we can sort of bridge those things together and think about possibly like a virtual connection here with some of our sister cities in the education front. Something a little bit beyond like pen pals or like Skyping with the classroom, but something where we can really I don't know, make that work in a sense. So the education committee, we can talk a little bit about that and, you know, brainstorm some ideas for something like that. But that's it for the time being. There's not a lot that we've been able to do.
Great, thank you. Neely, can you give us any update you might have in terms of the city schools, or anything you have to share about what the plan is? Or
Yes, we're all dying to know the plan, myself included. We are still in conversations about what that plan will look like in the fall. We had to go, obviously, you know, into virtual learning very quickly, sort of into virtual learning in crisis mode quickly this spring. So we just emerged from that and summer school planning. So we're starting to talk about next year. The last I heard, same as what Kate said, we're trying to stay very close to what Albemarle County is doing. Probably a hybrid virtual / in-person plan, where teachers will see some of their students in person a couple of days a week, and then virtually the other days of the week, and then flip-flop those groups. But we don't really know if that's what it's going to look like, and the plan is subject to be changed. So yeah, I am interested in what Kate's saying in terms of finding ways to have virtual connections with sister cities in different places across the world during this kind of remote learning virtual environment. The cool thing about this environment that we've noticed in Charlottesville City Schools is it's opened up more opportunities for students and teachers to communicate with people not in town with them. So we had a civics teacher who hosted virtual forums with elected officials and was able to connect with Justin Fairfax and different people, even local officials over Zoom. So looking forward to finding those connections, but I don't have a lot of definitive information right now about where the city is in the plan. Ever-changing.
I imagine that, you know, there are many reasons why this likely won't happen this fall, but normally this fall would be a year that a Besançon group from Lycée Pasteur, I think it is, would normally come to CHS in October. So I can't really imagine that is on the table right now, but it's certainly something just to keep in the back of your mind and Elizabeth's mind and the education committee in general, just to keep on top of that, because things are different there than they are here. So we don't really know how things will be, you know.
Yes, thank you for that information.
Yeah.
And that's something I can also talk to our French teachers in middle school and high school and see if it's possible to do some kind of virtual connection. So perhaps we can look into that.
Yeah, that might be a good way to move something forward in lieu of an in-person visit.
Thank you.
Yeah. Outreach and communications. So Tammy has been the keeper of and person sort of in charge of most of our social media over the last couple of years, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So she can give us a little bit of information about that. And as she is cycling off as of today, she will be needing to hand that off to somebody. So if you be thinking about that while she talks a little bit, and then you can tell us if somebody is interested in picking that piece of the puzzle up, even if it's just temporarily. Go ahead, Tammy.
Okay, there we go. When I came in, there was only Facebook, and so we created a Twitter feed and an Instagram feed, and they're not as robust as I would like them to be perfectly honest. But when things do arise and people go on trips or a special event happens, we try to get in there and really promote it, or through this Spanish-speaking sister city process, we've used it a lot. So just like your own personal social media, you want to use it to your advantage to spread the word about important and key things happening. So I have the logins, and maybe I'll share them with the new secretary to start. And I do believe they're all in the drive. So if anyone who needs them can access them. Something I always tried to encourage was for the individual sister city reps to use them themselves, or to send me photos and information when something special was happening in one of the sister cities that we could capitalize on and talk about here locally. So that's what I would advise in the future. And we also created some photo folders, which hopefully will be accessible on the drive, and I'll make sure that all of that is in good order through our Sister Cities Gmail account.
And anybody, any of you new folks, and anyone who is not new but hasn't already, please do, you know, like, if you're on Facebook, like the commission page, you know, use your personal page to spread the word at any time the commission page has a post. Same thing with Instagram or Twitter. If you use any of those, please do sign on to those. So Tammy can pass that along to the new secretary, and then maybe that can get passed around to the group in terms of how to find those pages so you can like them.
Could I ask
yeah.
a question? Tammy, when you say on the drive, forgive my
Well,
potential.
I'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Promise. Good question. Patrick has been our website guru. He and a former commissioner, Amy Lemley, worked really hard to create our website a couple of years ago. And when Amy cycled off, once it was up and running, Patrick has been great about maintaining that, keeping it current. And so I'll ask him to just give us a little bit of an update about that. Patrick works for the city, which is also nice, and is willing to continue to maintain the website unless there's somebody else on the commission currently, or one of the new folks who'd like to take that over from him. Go ahead, Patrick, give us a little bit of an update.
Well, yesterday or last night, I sent around just a brief, the homepage and then the About Us link on the website. Just main thing is to update the new members, add the new members, take the members who are cycling off this year. As Terry has stated, I'm going to, with the pandemic, there hasn't really been I haven't been able to train anybody else to take it on. So it's, if any of the new members want to take it on, if they have website editing experience, I can definitely send you the login and the password. And it's, as I said, if I do stay on to maintain the website, it would be good if somebody could get in contact with me with the new grant application, because that will need to be uploaded. Any grant summaries, I can definitely make some changes to the grant summaries. Right now, it's 2017 and 2018 grants. So if there are grant summaries that can be added, please shoot those to me. I would like to hand it off, but I will stay on and maintain the website until unless somebody wants to take it on.
Awesome. So if anybody does want to take it on, you all have each other's contact information now from the flurry of emails that have gone around over the last week or so. So please get in touch with Patrick, let him know if you are interested. I'm sure he'd be willing to walk you through things and be available to help out as well. Adrian was asking about the drive. And so we have a Google Drive, and on that Google Drive are many things related to the commission, our bylaws, our strategic plan, membership list, meeting minutes, and other things. And in fact, anything that would be useful down the road to any current or future member of the commission should really be uploaded to the Google Drive, because that's really the only place that everyone can access, and future members will have access to that. So that's sort of the depository, where sort of the history lies. That didn't exist until a few years ago. And so when that kind of thing doesn't exist, it means, every so often everything has to sort of start all over, because you don't have any background information once people are gone, from the commission. So the secretary kind of maintains that in terms of posts the meeting minutes, and any kind of official documents that are edited or revised, like our strategic plan or bylaws. But if you are the chair of a specific committee, you may have, your working documents on your personal computer and in your personal email, but at whatever point that information should be condensed, into, a folder or a document that is fairly self-explanatory to somebody who reads it, and then uploaded to the Google Drive, so that people don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, there is a visit from a delegation, or, some kind of events, or our grant applications, those kinds of things. So that's what the Google Drive is. Everyone has access to it. If you, obviously new people will need to be given access to it. So I'm gonna suggest that information gets sent around to the whole group, so that if there's a current member who hasn't accessed it and isn't sure how to access it, that information gets passed along. It's a good place, to spend a little time checking out from time to time. Things like the bylaws, strategic plan, those things we usually review every year. We usually make a 3-year strategic plan, and in fact, it's time for that to happen. But even though it's a 3-year plan, we usually review it every year along with the bylaws, just to, make sure that everything makes sense and that the commission is on track, or there may be things that should be added or should be removed, things like that. But so those current documents exist on the Google Drive, live on the Google Drive. Anything else? One more. We have one more committee, the Spanish speaking sister city. I'm going to ask Joan to give us a little update on that. Before you start, just to catch people up, I'm going to let Joan take you through sort of the process that we went through, but we went at our last meeting in February, our last regular meeting, we had decided that we were ready to draft a recommendation to council to move forward with one of the sister cities that we were considering. Right after that meeting, literally right after that meeting, we found out that we may not get our funding allocation for this year that begins tomorrow. it is now for sure that we are not getting that. So, but once we found out that that was potentially going to happen, we decided to hold back from making that recommendation, because if we don't have continued funding, it would be pretty much impossible to move forward with the process that is required to consider a sister city. So that's something that the new group of you as a whole will have to continue to discuss and decide whether or not to move forward with. But I'll let Joan sort of fill in the blanks from that.
Okay, Terry just explained where we are right now, but the subcommittee, I worked with Kate and Dave, and we set goals, and I think we did it. You know, we would have loved a larger turnout for our community event, but I was really pleased with the way everything went. In January, we worked with Charlottesville City Schools, and we were allowed to have a community event at Buford. We decided it was important to us to have the meeting in the city school system. And we invited the community to listen to the representatives of both of the cities. We got a nice voting turnout. You could vote on paper or online. The entire school system was sent a link to vote. Several teachers had the students in their class vote on the 2 different cities. And so by mid-February, the majority of the votes came in, and Huehuetenango, Guatemala was the city that was leading in votes. It was also the choice when voted by the city commission. And so we were all ready to, we had a letter drafted to submit to city council of our selection. Excited about adding a Spanish-speaking sister city, but Terry just explained that without funding, we're a little uncertain on how to proceed forward. But I think we had a great start. There's an interest for Spanish-speaking sister city. I think we're ready to move forward. I know that I'm going to let Kate talk about the 2. Looking at Kate's face. Kate was going to send a thank you note to both representatives of the 2 cities and thank them very much for the hard work and the great presentation they did at our community event, and that we would love to consider it in the future, but that right now there wasn't going to be the funding to go forward with our plans to have another sister city, Spanish-speaking sister city. I thought my subcommittee did a great job, and everybody contributed, and I think it was very positive and ready to move forward whenever. So the letter we do have a draft of a letter, but we didn't move forward with the letter. So that's where we are. I don't know if Dave or Kate, if you'd like to add anything, I'd love to hear from you. But if not, if I left anything out, please feel free to add. Okay, and you're both on mute just in case. All right.
Okay, great. So that's just another thing for this group to continue to think about and talk about whenever that's possible. So this might be a good time for me to say that this meeting is a one-off, meaning that the commission was only given permission for this one meeting to sort of just do this sort of transition handoff. Hopefully, I don't know when. I'm sure that City Council is thinking and talking and trying to figure out how and when to have more boards and commissions continue their work. So Max and Kina will, I'm sure let you know when that will pick back up again and how. It seems really easy. it was hard for me to understand initially why we couldn't just meet on Zoom. You know, it took some time and some understanding, both from the clerk's office and the communications office, to get from my own understanding of how much time and energy, goes into setting up and hosting these public meetings for all the various things that need to happen in the city. So while it's frustrating not to be able to move forward with things, hopefully a plan is being put into place, in order for more things to move forward in the near future. So I guess just stay tuned about that. The downside of not being able to meet, whether it's in person or virtually, is that business cannot be conducted. Because business has to be conducted in a public setting, not being able to meet means not being able to do things. It means you can't have committee meetings of more than 2 people. You can't send around emails and make decisions that way. So these are things that just are not there. They go against the rules. So that is also frustrating, but it's just a reality. So if you have any questions about what can and can't happen, reach out to Max and Kina to sort of find out, hey, can I do this? The essay contest was a good example of that, because Kate and I had been talking about that and we wanted to move forward with it, but we wanted to offer an award to the winner, and that had to happen in a vote. And so we couldn't do that because we couldn't take a vote. So it seemed, again, sometimes things seem really simple, but are in fact a little more complicated. We have 2 quick things. We're running out of time, but we're doing pretty well. I'm surprised. 2 last things to talk about, and that is leadership and retreat plans. So for new folks, for the last several years, the commission has started every fiscal year with a retreat, and that sounds great, but nobody gets to go to the Bahamas or one of our sister cities. Our retreats usually have meant retreating to someone's house or to the library, somewhere like that, usually for a half a day. We have typically done it from 4 to 8 p.m. So it is the only time all year that we meet for more than, for our regular 1-hour monthly meeting. So it has usually taken the place of either our August meeting or our September meeting. Obviously that scheduling is up in the air. I don't know when you all will be able to do that, but usually what that means, that retreat has 2 purposes. One is to just kind of review, go over over what happened over the last fiscal year, what occurred, what was accomplished, what didn't get accomplished that you had hoped to, what were the successes, what were the not so successful things, and then planning for the current year. So launching the grants cycle, any delegation visits from or to sister cities, goals for each committee. Those things are all things that get talked about at the retreat. Also, again, the updating, if necessary, of bylaws or strategic plans. So it's an incredibly important piece of the calendar, and I hope that you all will be able to do that sooner rather than later. That is also the place that committee assignments are usually made at that time. So everybody, everyone gets divvied up and usually serves on at least one, if not more, of our subcommittees: grants, communication, outreach, education, finance, etc. It's also the place where new leadership is elected. So unfortunately, again, because you're not going to be having a retreat that we know of in the super near future. There is going to be a little bit of a leadership vacuum. I've been chair, so you're going to be chairless. Usually the makeup is that there's either a chair and a vice chair, or 2 co-chairs. And so you all can be thinking about that, about the structure, what makes more sense and what people are willing to do. I did reach out to a few of you to see if somebody would be willing to take on that role or those roles, and I didn't have much luck. So that's something you all are going to need to wrestle and grapple with. And you also will need a treasurer. And Tammy has been filling the role of secretary. She's going to hand that off to Kate. Thank you so much, Kate, for agreeing to take that on. So Tammy and Kate will get together in some way and hand that stuff off. And so I guess in the absence of a chair currently, Kate, if you'll just sort of be the communicator. So if Kina or Max reaches out about any changes in the city and ability to host a meeting, you can just let everybody know and work on scheduling that.
Yeah, I guess in the meantime then, since we can't really do much anyway, once we hear that we can set up a day to plan a retreat, like once that's the next thing, I can send some info out to all you guys, and we can plan that out and figure out what that's going to look like and where that's going to be. But yeah, and
I have old materials, retreat materials, and I'm very happy to, if you all decide either maybe you'll put together a small retreat planning committee, and I'd be happy to just advise that group on setting that up whenever that happens. So happy to do that. We are at 5:31, pretty miraculous. I want to take a second just to ask if any of you all have any questions. Any last final words before we sign off? It's a lot of information.
I do.
Yes, Adrienne.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, and I'll just throw them out there and understand that maybe there's not time for answers. But the first is there any kind of orientation packet or anything like that? Does the Google Drive would be able to explain more procedures, processes, how the budget works?
That's a great question. Typically, the chair would orient new members. But yes, so things like the bylaws, strategic plan, all that kind of stuff is on the Google Drive. So you can familiarize yourself with those documents there. Kate is I think gonna send around the Google Drive information, right?
Yeah, I was wondering how we get on it.
Yeah, and so you can talk to me or Tammy about that. Tammy can help you figure out the Google Drive information and send that around. And so you can start to familiarize yourself that way, Adrienne. Again, I'm also happy to answer questions. Dave has been around a while and is a good person to help fill in some blanks and answer questions as well.
Okay. And then just to be clear, it sounds like there are really some legal type issues around our meeting. And so we just can't move forward and have a July or an August 1-hour meeting, and we can't email each other about Sister City business?
Okay, so you cannot have a meeting because meetings have to be open to the public. And so while the city is doing things all virtually, all that stuff is being handled through the communications department. And so I had to get a special express permission from City Council to hold this meeting. It is my hope that they are close to working out some sort of meeting schedule for boards and commission, but I have no real idea if that's the case. Max, I don't know if you have any more, you can shed any light on that?
Yeah, so no, I don't have any further information at this time. What I will tell you is that if you'd like to request a meet, you can always place that request before council. They'll decide it at the next council meeting. And they're actually on vacation the early part of July, so July 20th would be the next council meeting.
So it may be, maybe this group wants to make a request to City Council to be able to schedule your retreat, since that's really kind of the first thing. The second part of your question, you can email one another. You can talk about things, but you can't make decisions over email. And so that does kind of hamper the process. But you can talk to each other over email and ask questions and shoot ideas, you know, back and forth and make plans and brainstorm and all that kind of stuff. But you just can't make decisions. You can't take votes. You're not allowed to, it's called polling. You're not allowed to poll members with email.
Actually, if two or more of you are discussing your board's business via email, it would constitute a meeting. So you'd actually be in violation. I'm sorry. Bear of bad news.
Thanks, Max.
And so typically, last question, when this group would meet normally in person, it would be open to the public?
Yeah, so typically meetings have been held at City Hall. We usually don't have the retreat at City Hall because we try to meet somewhere that's a little more comfortable. Most of the time I've been on commission, we've met in the second floor conference room, which is a small conference room next door to the clerk's office. It holds the commission. It's not, doesn't have a lot of extra space, but it is open to the public. So if people come, they can stand, you know, to the side. We often have media that will come. Sometime for a while, we were able to use the basement conference room, which is a lot bigger. It's a much better room if you're going to have any other people. But we right before the pandemic hit, we got ousted from that room because of another group that was a larger group that needed it on a regular basis. So that again can be something down the road whenever meetings are able to be in person again. Perhaps the clerk's office can work on a location that's maybe better suited. To be honest, until the last couple of years, we didn't usually have too many visitors other than visitors that we invited. So sometimes we might invite grant recipients to come and give a report about, you know, the project that they have completed, or grant applicants to come and talk about what they, are wanting to do, or people that want to start a new sister city relationship. So often if we have visitors, it might be around a particular project or delegates from sister cities, things like that. But over the last couple of years, we did start to have some more media presence at our meetings, and from time to time, just interested members of the public.
Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Oh, Elizabeth, I was like a voice. Yeah.
So Terry, is it accurate to understand that historically the majority of this commission's budget has been used to fund grants?
I would say yes, the large majority of budget, yes. So when I started on commission, we had a very large amount of reserves, and there was no grants program at that time. and money had been being saved because there was a plan to have, I think there was a plan to have some clocks made that would have like the time in each of our sister cities and mounted on City Hall outside or something. So they were saving up money, and then when it sort of push came to shove, it was really expensive. And so right around the time that I started on commission, that plan was being sunsetted because it was too expensive, basically. And so I actually I think I restarted. I think there had been a grants program at one point. So I sort of jump started the grants program, and we've been kind of working the reserves down by giving out the grants, but not fast enough, apparently, because we still have a fair amount of money. But it's good that we have that money right now, or that you have that money right now, since we don't have any money coming in for this year. So it'll give a little bit of a cushion to continue to give out grants and do other projects. So other monies get spent when groups visit from other sister cities, or we don't do a lot of giving of money for delegations going over, but something maybe to purchase a gift to give the mayor of our sister city, or some other small amount, for some specific thing.
And do the bylaws talk about or cover what kinds of decisions are made around how the budget is spent, or what the process is for putting in a request to the commission to spend some money?
I'll have to review the bylaws again to answer that fully. I mean, yes, the bylaws give you, some indication of how things should work, but I don't think they're quite that comprehensive. But the clerk's office can always tell you what the process is from the city perspective, in terms of what monies, can be spent in what ways, and what the process is. Most of our almost always grant funds are given on a reimbursement basis, because that's how the city does it. And so typically when we have money that we've spent, whether it's on a grant or within the commission, we would forward that reimbursement request to the clerk's office, and they would forward it on to the finance department. So we don't necessarily interact personally with the finance department at the city. So the clerk's office is our staff liaison. And so anytime that there are, particular questions or concerns about how things should work, that's a good first stop. And they will, if they don't have the answers, they'll go to the city attorney, or they'll go to the city manager, or they'll go to wherever they need to go to get that answer. Typically either Kina or Max attends every meeting. So one of them is usually there to answer questions if they can meet in the immediate, but then they can always be answered, later if necessary. Typically, I think it's better for the clerk's office, I think, and for the commission in general, if the chair is the main person interacting, so that there aren't a lot of requests coming from all different places. But it may be that you designate some other different process, but it is important that, the left hand know what the right hand is doing. So just be thinking about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments or concerns that anybody has before we say farewell?
Just real quick, so thinking about making a request to City Council to have a retreat, how would you guys feel about, like, if we put in a request, I'd imagine that'd be through Kina, Yeah, probably. So if we put in a request, would you guys feel good about doing a retreat maybe in September? Would that seem like a good time to do something like that? I see.
Yeah.
I can email Kina then and see if we can put that on the agenda for the July 20th meeting of doing that. And then assuming it gets approved, we can go further with that and start planning that out. So like where that might be and times and dates and stuff.
Okay.
Cool.
And then
Beth.
I had one other thing that I wanted to add. So if you guys are interested in requesting the contribution that council typically gives you each fiscal year, you'll need to put that request in as well. So it won't automatically be included in the next fiscal year cycle. So you'll have to.
What's the
submit that.
time frame on that?
It's one of those questions I don't know.
Okay.
I would think you'd have plenty of time since we just finished our budget cycle. But I do know that it will not automatically be included in the next one, so you need to submit
So
it.
somebody make a note of that because that's important.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I didn't say at the beginning of the meeting is that all of you will hear from me when your terms end at least. And if you're eligible for another, I'll request that you send me an application. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we can sign off now. People, everybody should feel free to reach out to me if you have any burning questions that you need help with. I will download all my Poggio related information to Stella. Elizabeth will be following up with Yates on Besançon, and Tammy and Kate will follow up on transitioning secretary. Anyone who would like to take over the website should let Patrick know. I'm sure I've missed something, but we'll just figure it out. All right.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry, and all the retiring members. We'll miss you. Thank you for your leadership.
Miss you all. It's good to see your faces.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everybody.
Thanks, Max. And thanks,
No problem.
Thanks, Patrick.
Bye-bye.